Suren Beginyan, a resident of Aygehovit, forgets about his home as soon as spring arrives. That's because there's so much to do at the vineyard, where he works until sundown. I've worked the land for 4 years without seeing any result, but now it's great. In the fall of 2015, the 50-year-old grape grower finally reaped the bountiful fruits of his labor. The vineyard rewarded Suren's large family for the first time. Today it's easy for him to convince his school-aged children to give him a helping hand on weekends. It was good last year. We revitalized the soil, fertilized and irrigated it. After pruning the dead branches, I loosened the hard soil and dug a waterway, Beginyan says, and adds, grapes love to get a lot of water. I think we have all the water we need. Thanks to the Nasosny pipeline, water reaches all of the area's farmlands. During the Soviet years, the village of Aygehovit and neighboring Vazashen broke records in grape and wheat production. But, as the villagers recall painfully, their vineyards and croplands began to dry up after the fall of the Soviet Union and the escalation of Armenian-Azeri clashes along the border. The lands along the shore of the Avtsev River went dry because it was no longer possible to use the area's pump station, which sat on the Armenian-Azerbaijani border, while the Aygehovit-Vazashen canal was being destroyed. All these fields that you see, extending up to that point over there, used to be part of Vazashen and Aygehovit. 1,500 hectares of our land are now under Azeri occupation. After a hiatus of more than 2 decades, the vineyards of Aygehovit and Vazashen saw water again 4 years ago, when the Hayastan All-Armenian Fund redeveloped the area's irrigation network by renovating the pump station and building an almost 3.5-kilometer pipeline, with the financial support of the Armenian communities of Argentina and France. Today, villagers are able to cultivate the land. We're very happy for having access to water and look forward to even bigger harvests. Last year, Ararat Hamzian sold 2.5 tons of grapes to a local winemaker. He hopes to double his income this year. It's wonderful to be able to irrigate these lands and reap the benefits. If all goes well, we'll produce 5 tons of grapes this year. Now, yield volume depends on the hard work of farmers rather than the whims of the weather. Villagers no longer pin their hopes on having a wet year, Hovannes Dalakyan says. We thank our benefactors for rebuilding our water network and enabling us to increase agricultural output by up to 3 times. We're very grateful and hope that more development projects will be implemented. Hovannes Dalakyan thinks it would be worth converting the old wheat fields into vineyards, given the fact that Armenia has entered a new golden age of winemaking. Currently, Tavush alone has 2 wine factories, and storing grapes is no longer an issue for farmers. Our farmers sell their grapes in Ichevan or Shamshadin. Many have contracts. In these parts, men who grow grapes or make wine under the constant threat of Azeri snipers don't like gloating about their persistence with patriotic speeches. As the story goes, they asked someone where he wanted to move to. He said, "Give me a globe and I'll show you." So they gave him a globe and he spun it, and kept spinning it until he stopped and asked, "Do you have another globe?" We've only got 1 globe and 1 homeland, Suren says. He's a father of 7. His oldest son is in the army. The wines reserved for his son's eventual return and wedding parties have long been aged in special casks.